Hello, YouTube family. It's been a really long time since you have seen me. Let's maybe do a little life update. Or if you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Courtney Hill. I used to vlog a little bit here and there back in the day, and it's been many years. But I'm gonna get back to it. And a lot has happened since I have last been on YouTube. So let's talk about it. But first, I need to go get my cat who jumped out of my RV, and I don't trust so much. So I am coming to you live from my RV. I bought an RV a couple months ago, and I have been working tirelessly ever since to Courtnify it, as I've called it. I've got a pink kitchen. This is like my bedroom with my cute wallpaper. And I want to tell you guys just a little bit about what inspired this. So yeah, I'm living in this full time now. This is day 3 of being on the road. And to be honest, this feels like so surreal because I truly never thought I would ever do something like this. I always loved the idea of it, but it wasn't necessarily like a dream of mine, like I'm gonna do that someday or I want to do that someday. I'm like, yeah, the thought of that sounds fucking cool, but like I don't know, I guess I just never thought I could be someone to like pull that off. I've always been a incredibly like rooted person in the sense that I hate moving. I like having home, and I like that home staying my home for like a duration. I have lived 5 places in my entire life. I moved once as a kid, literally just up the street, didn't even change like congregations with the church I grew up in. And then since I've been out of my parents' house for like almost a decade now, I've only lived in 3 different places. I stayed in the first place a couple of years, the next place a couple of years, and then the last place for 4 years. And yeah, moving is not something I like to do. So this is like very much out of my norm. I have lived in one state my whole life, Utah. Not only the one state, the one county. Like I haven't left like a 20-minute radius in all 5 of those homes. And now I'm living on the road and switching locations every few days, or we'll see how it shakes out. But I want to give you a little backstory on how we got to where we are today. So in fall of 2024, I ended a 5-year relationship, and that truly shook me to my core. It felt like a divorce. Like me and that man were so close, and for a time we're like planning on getting married and having kids, and there was just a lot of back and forth with that. But I finally decided, you know, if I want to get married and I want to have kids and this man cannot commit to that, like I need to walk away from this. And that could be a whole story time in and of itself, but that was very challenging. That was October of 2024. Fast forward to the next spring, summer, I plan a trip to go down to Peru and do a master plan dieta, which would happen in August. And that's something I have known I would want to do for quite a while. I just knew I would know when the time was right. And at the beginning of 2025, I was like, I have a feeling it's going to be this year. I don't really know how I'm going to make it happen, but like I just have a feeling it's going to be this year. Sure enough, I was able to make it happen. Happened in August. And oh my gosh, that was like so good and life-changing. And that's really a way to like shake your life up. Like if you want some shit to move, go do something as crazy as that. I was in the middle of the Amazonian jungle, quite literally the middle of nowhere. Like took a plane to Lima, then took a place to a small jungle town called Pucallpa, and then from there we took a private charter plane to Contamana, which is like this tiny little town, and then from there we took tuk-tuk rides through, and then they parked in the middle of nowhere, then we got out and hiked a couple miles to the middle of, like deeper into the middle of nowhere, and then in the jungle we each had our own little huts all like dispersed, and so I'm in this little tombo all alone, fasting. There's no external stimulation, so no music, no podcasts. You're fasting a lot. When you do eat, it's no sugar, no salt, no oil, no flavors. It's like bland rice, hard-boiled eggs, lentils, and broccoli. That's like all you ate when you did eat for 2 weeks. You could journal, you could sing, you could pray, you could meditate, and that's what you did. You could practice instruments, do art. You could do output, no input, and you're communing with these plants and learning life lessons and attending ceremonies and working with different medicines, and it's beautiful. It was so incredible, so challenging, but so incredible. And at the end of that, they told us, like, forewarning, as you guys go home and integrate, because when you're there, so much discovery and messages and like taking down, dismantling, and just getting into like the weeds. Like, I feel like I'm a pretty self-aware person. I was shocked by the things that were coming up when I was alone with nothing to distract me. And so you leave an experience like that, and it's not like you go and you're healed. A lot of people talk about these medicines and they're like, it's like 7 years of therapy in one night, which to an extent, yes. However, the real medicine, the real ceremony is the integration after. You're gonna learn things, you're gonna have breakthroughs, you're gonna have takeaways, but what do you do what do you do with that when you get back home to your normal life? Because if you go back and you just go back to your normal way of living and existing and being, did you really like accomplish anything? Or how are you going to interpret these lessons into your life and elevate the way you live or interact with people? Or what habits are you going to break? What patterns are you going to stop? What really makes a difference is the integration. It's nothing without integration. And so they warned us, in integration, a lot of you are going to have a lot of really big life changes. Relationship changes, job changes, moves, location changes, career changes. You guys are going to have changes. And I genuinely was like, well, I'm obviously immune to that because I already had my big life change. I had my big breakup after 5 years. I'm good. Like, I'm going to go home and I'm still going to have stuff to integrate, but probably no, like, big life changes, right? Joke's on me. And in hindsight, it's so crazy seeing all the little foreshadows leading up to this. So, let's see. About 2 weeks after I got home from the jungle, I got a text from 2 of my dearest, most beloved friends who rented out their basement to me, so also like my landlords, and they basically were just like, we need the basement back for, I think it was like a few reasons that just kind of piled up. They had outgrown their space, they had a family member that needed the space, just like multiple things. And I had lived in this home for a little over 4 years at this point, and this house was my everything. It was on farmland, and the home was like set back from the road, and then surrounding the house was this glorious yard, and then surrounding the yard were these pastures. And the pastures went back behind the house quite a bit. And so I always explained it to people as like the best of both worlds. Like, I'm 5 minutes from the freeway, I'm 20 minutes from Sprouts, I am like close to everything I need, but I feel like I live in a little small town. Like, I can sit in my backyard and I feel like I don't have neighbors. It's just like pastures. And I spent so much time in that yard with my cats. If I was ever home, we were in the backyard, unless I was like cooking or doing laundry or cleaning. I did everything out there. I took my books out there, my journals out there, my food, my meals out there. Like, that yard was my oasis, and I feel like those trees in me had the most special relationship. Like, I would be like deep in meditation, and I would look up and I just felt like this, like, the energy from these trees just like stewarding over me, like watching me, witnessing me in my process. I loved this house, and I would always tell people, like, it's the most abundant part of my life. Like, it is proof that I am such a lucky, blessed, held, taken care of human, the fact that I live in this home. And so getting that text was very like, and I automatically knew. I was like, this is the fucking dieta. This is the dieta energy shaking up my life. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, what? I felt very frazzled, but I was like, just breathe. Just breathe, like, you're gonna figure things out. You know, I was pretty stressed, but I'm a really big believer that life doesn't happen to me, it happens for me. And so that really came through, and I felt that strong pretty immediately. Like, this is happening for a reason. Like, everything happens for a reason. And so I just tried to breathe and regulate through it. The next morning, I started looking up on, like, Facebook Marketplace, like, places around me. I've lived on my own now for, you know, however many years. I'm like, I don't really feel like I can go back to having roommates, to be honest. Like, I don't love the idea of that. I also cannot live in, like, an apartment complex without a yard. Me and my cats spend so much time outside. I'm like, not having a yard just does not feel like an option for us. And so I'm looking at, like basement apartments that are, like, 1 bed, 1 bath, and everything's just really, really expensive. And I'm like, I don't know if I can swing that. And I'm like, it just seems like anything that was gonna be in my price range would be, like, a tiny little townhome in this, like, newly developed area where, like, townhomes are just sardined in. You have, like, a patch of grass, maybe like 4 feet by 4 feet, like, backyard. And it's, like, really close to, like, a highway. And again, with my cats, I'm like, I can't do, like, it just, yeah, that next morning I was, like, spiraling. After I looked at everything, I was like, I'm so overwhelmed. And so that night I went and I sat back in the farm next to the pastures. I brought my hoppe and my mapacho pipe made out of bobinsana bark from the bobinsana tree in the jungle. And I brought my mapacho, and mapacho is like a prayer tobacco. And so I didn't even end up sitting with the hoppe, but I had it there as an option. I just sat with my mapacho and just, like, prayed to it. And little backstory, earlier that day and the day before, I was like, let's just think of, like, every option possible. So I'm like, okay, I could move back in with my parents. I could find somewhere around here, like a studio. I could find roommates. I could get an RV or a van and go live on the road. I could move somewhere totally new. I could go find an apartment or a home in, like, Washington or Colorado. I looked up the cheapest place to buy houses, and it said, I think it was, like, West Virginia. So I was, like, looking on Zillow for houses for sale in West Virginia. I'm like, maybe I save up money and I go buy a home in, like, North Carolina or West Virginia or something. Like, maybe I can find someone with land and I can buy a yurt and I can, like, live in someone's backyard on a yurt. Like, I just literally came up with every option I could think of. I could go to Costa Rica, I could go to Bali. I actually looked deeper into the Bali one, though, and that was not going to be a viable option because you cannot bring cats with you into Bali. And I have 2 cats who are, like, my baby children. Love them so much. Leaving them is just not an option for me. Drink break. Okay. So I went out in the yard and I sat with my mapacho, and I just prayed for guidance. I prayed for a sign, for a message. I prayed for an answer. Just please guide me and show me what it is I'm supposed to do. And then I smoked my mapacho pipe and I sat in meditation, and it was like a voice came to me, like, clear as day. And it was just like, van life, like, go live on the road. And my honest to God first reaction was, I do not want to do that. Like, I, like, panicked again. I was like, that sounds so hard and so scary. Like, I don't want to do that. And I just continued to breathe in my meditation, and it's like the voice was still there, and it was like, just trust. Just trust. So I'm like, okay. I felt such a confirmation, like such a like warm swelling. I was like, okay, like I can't deny what I just felt and what I just heard. And so I immediately Google van life with cats, click on a YouTube video, the very first video, within like a minute in, she was like, this is my cat, Mr. Pickles. I have a cat named Pickles, and he has been called Mr. Pickles. And so I was like, okay, like that made me laugh. I was like, that felt like a confirmation. But I was like, I'm not gonna jump the gun yet. Like, I'm gonna sit on this and like think about it. And that night I kind of started to get excited. I think over the next week or two, I like really weighed it out as an option. I was talking with a friend about it, like daydreaming about it. And I'm like, okay, this sounds exciting, but I'm like, I'm still really scared. So I just, yeah, I think it took about a week or two before I was like really like set on it and really thought about it. And I was like, just couldn't deny that I felt so right about it. And oddly enough, the night before I got that text, not even 12 hours before I got it, I was listening to the song Gypsy by Fleetwood Mac. And I was like, I remember right where I was driving as I was listening to it, and I had this thought. I thought to myself, I wish I had more gypsy energy. Like, I wish I could just be like more fleeting, like more here and then there, and then just like up and moving. And I'm like, I'm just such a like stay in one place type of gal. And so when I realized that, it kind of made me laugh. I'm like, be careful what you wish for. And within the week before I got that text, I was on a walk and I saw someone with a Sprinter van parked outside a park, and the door was open and I could tell someone was like living in it. And I had thought to myself, like, that's so dope. Like, I would love to do that someday. Again, like, didn't really think I would, just like, that's like, I love the thought of that. I love the idea of that. And so I'm like, okay, those were kind of like subtle foreshadows. But I feel like the biggest one, when I got home from Peru, I went to the library and got the book Eat, Pray, Love. And I read that book for the first time in my life. And I kind of thought to myself, like, why haven't I ever read this before? But then it also was like, yeah, you actually probably wouldn't have fully appreciated this book if you had read it, like, in any other time of your life. And reading that just made me, like, long for an adventure like that. I was like, I want to go on, like, an Eat, Pray, Love adventure. And I'm like, but I can't because I have cats. And I can't afford to pay for my rent and like go travel at the same time. And like, again, I've got cats. I can't just like move around to a bunch of different countries, you know. I've got these babies I gotta take care of. And so yeah, it just didn't seem feasible for me, I guess. But again, that was such a foreshadow. And I will say, I do feel like that home that I loved, because I loved it so much, it really kept me tethered to Utah. A few years ago, I had a friend that was like, we should just move to Bali. Like, let's just do it. Like, even if it's just for a few months. But I was like, but I can't, because I love this home I live in. And again, if I'm like leaving reliable income, how am I gonna pay for rent? And I was not willing to go on an adventure that would require me to give up my spot, move out, because I'm like, well, what happens if at the end of whatever adventure, moving to Bali, who knows how long that's gonna last, I decide to come back to Utah, and then I no longer have this home, and I have to like find a new place. Because also, let me just tell you guys, this home I was living in was 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, like 2 living rooms. So it was massive. I had an herb room, I had a bedroom, I had a meditation room, I had a living room. The second living room was my like office, workspace, desk area, and my rent was bloody cheap, okay? I'm not even gonna tell you guys how much it was, because my friends are just generous people. They weren't trying to make money off of me. To them, it was just a chunk of cash off of their mortgage. And so I was like, this is like way too good to leave. And if I had to come back to Utah and again, like find an apartment for twice as much without a yard in a location I don't like I can't let this home go. So that home kept me kind of stuck or tethered to Utah. And it just became evident to me within the news of me having to leave that it is time for an adventure. There was like all the little foreshadows leading it up to it too, right? Like the desire for an adventure. I will say too, fresh in my breakup, I was like, I just want to run away. Like, I just want to leave. Like, I just want to put my tent in the back of my car and just like leave and just like go to Colorado and like get out of here. Again, I do think that came from a little bit more of a place of like running away, when my heartbreak and my, you know, grief would have just followed me. That wouldn't have actually fixed anything. But yeah, it just became very evident that the universe was trying to urge me on an adventure by giving me the desire for one, but because I was unwilling to take the leap and take the risk, that it had to push me a little bit and take something I loved away from me in order to get me on board. And so at this point, with my home gone, it's like I kind of feel like I have nothing left to lose. Like, I just lost my relationship, now I've lost my home. Those are two really big life changes. I just had this feeling of like, well, go big or go home, I guess. I might as well quit all my jobs and move out of the state that I've lived in my whole entire life and just literally 180 my entire life. And so that's where we are. And it seems like kind of perfect timing. I'll be 29 next month. My Saturn return just started. I'm like, of course this is happening, honestly. And I will say leaving work and reliable income does feel very scary. I just kind of came to the conclusion as I like really thought about this, and I was very intentional with this decision. However, once I made the decision, there was literally no turning back. But until I like solidly committed to the decision, I was very intentional. And one of the final things that finally like pushed me to the point of commitment was, you will never regret this. I just don't think this is something I will ever regret doing. I don't think 20 years from now I'm gonna look back and be like, dude, that was such a big mistake. Like, that blew up in your face. Like, you should have never done that. In fact, quite the opposite. I think 20 years from now, even a year from now, I think I'm gonna look back and be like, I am so glad I did that. I think I will be so grateful to myself forever for doing this. I think the whole like van life thing gets very glamorized and romanticized online, which I definitely like buy into that. But because I do think it is romantic and it is glamorous to the point that it is, but also going into this, I am being realistic where I'm like, it's a lot easier to live in a house. I don't have a bath. I can't take a 20-minute hot shower. I'm taking military showers. Like, it's already filthy as hell in here because I've got 2 shaggy cats and I'm walking around barefoot. Like, got limited water supply. There's just a lot of, I know living in an RV is a much bigger pain in the ass than living in a home. Temperature wise too, all the things, right? And so I'm like, I just feel like this is gonna shake up my life in such a way that it's going to, as a result, create such deeper like intimacy with self, foster a greater relationship with self where I'm really the one carrying myself through this. I am relying on myself right now. And I think I'm gonna learn so much about myself through this adventure because I do believe there's gonna be challenging, frustrating like things that I'm gonna experience, and I think I'm gonna be better for it. And yeah, there is the reality that this blows up in my face and it doesn't go at all as planned, and I have to go back home sooner than I intended because I run out of money and I'm not really making money the way I hoped to, or whatever it is. But I just have to find out for myself. I just feel so much purpose in this, and again, this doesn't even feel like something I wanted to do and therefore chose to do. I'm like, no, this feels like a calling. I feel like I have been instructed and told to go on this adventure, to find the rest of your life, and I just simply feel like I'm answering a call. But it feels so purposeful. Like, I feel like there is so much purpose in this. I don't even know what's waiting on the path for me ahead and what this journey holds for me, but when I think about it, I get like butterflies. I'm like, this just feels huge. Like, this feels like the ticket to the rest of my life, honestly. And I have lived so much life in my 29 years, but in a way it kind of feels like my life is just starting, and it just feels like this step, me answering this call, is like a pivotal turning point for me. And so we'll see what happens. My plan is kind of no plan. I am gonna stick around the West. I have like a general map and timeline of like where I want to be where, but I'm leaving it very fluid and up in the air, very like dependent on me and where I want to be on any given day. We're just gonna flow with it, and we'll see. My plan is kind of 6 months. I hesitate to even really speak that out loud and share that, but yeah, I don't know how long I will be living in the RV full time on the road. I am leaving that up to the universe. I have kind of like those general like 6 months mapped out. But we'll see at the end of that. Maybe I love living on the road and I want to go somewhere warm for the winter. Maybe I'm ready to go back to Utah and get like a home there. Maybe I find somewhere else that I love that I want to go live, either in or out of the RV. I don't know. I'm just like I'm not planning for that. I just know that when the time comes, I'll know what I want to do, and so I'm just going to keep trusting. I will say I feel like I'm a very brave person. People in my life know that about me. I do a lot of kind of like scary, ballsy, nerve-wracking things, but it's not because I'm fearless, it's because I'm brave. I definitely have a lot of fear. I just don't let it hold me back from doing things. And I'm also a very like determined person. Like, when I set my mind to something, there's no turning back. Like with this, I even feel like once I decided, yeah, I'm gonna freaking do this, my mind was set and there was like no changing my mind. I even came across the most perfect house, a house with a yard, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. It was within something I could afford without stress, like a price range that felt good to me. And I was like, this feels like a test. Like, how serious are you about getting in that RV and living on the road? Because it was the cutest, like, old, like, dainty house, like, something I would love to live in. And I was like, I just can't. Like, I'm not even tempted by that. Like, had I seen that a month prior, I would be like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go live there. But, yeah. It was 6 months ago that I decided to do this. It's been 6 months in the making. I had births that I was still on call for because I'm a birth doula, and so I knew I would be staying in Utah through February for those births. My plan was just to hustle, grind, save as much money as I could, and that's exactly what I did. The universe came through with so much work and so many jobs, which again, I guess even being at home, it's not like my income was always that stable or reliable. It like definitely has its ebbs and flows because I basically just have like an assortment of like part-time jobs. I got nanny gigs, and I'm a birth doula, and I'm a postpartum doula, and I do placenta encapsulation, and I have an Etsy where I sell herbal tinctures and salves and teas and whatnot. And so, but even with the nannying, it's like, it's not always like I have consistent, reliable jobs. But upon deciding to do this, I came into a few consistent, reliable nanny jobs, as well as an influx of other stuff. It was like such a grind and hustle. And then I like remodeled in here. I don't know what term you would use. Probably not really renovate, because all the bones have stayed the same. I didn't do any like demoing. I just painted, wallpapered, reupholstered, like updated curtains, and I will show you guys, do an RV tour later, because I have a video of me doing everything that I will post as well, so you can expect that soon. So it is a really big trust fall. I feel like because I have been so busy in the months preparing for this and working for this, reality hadn't really hit me, you know. I was like so like distracted with my chaos, and I knew once I got on the road that it would probably hit me, and that is what happened, except I still don't think it's like fully hit me. We're on day 3, and it's still like a little bit just like surreal. It's like it's still brand new. This is such an adjustment, right? But that first day I did have all the anxiety. Like as soon as I drove away, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, is this a huge mistake? And I think just feeling the weight too of like income, paying for gas, to be so honest with you guys, like that is a fear I have, but I know I can work through it. I just don't think I would be told to do this if things weren't going to be okay. I do have savings. Ideally, I don't live off savings. I don't want to have to drain my savings, but if so what? Okay, I go back to Utah and move back in my parents' basement and make some money again until I can like afford a place to go live, or live in the RV outside my parents' house. That is the other thing. I was given 3 months until I had to leave my home, but I had 6 months worth of like birth work lined up, and so I went and stayed at my parents' house for 6 months, and that also felt very intentional and purposeful. I have not been back in my parents' house since I moved out when I was 20, and the last time I was living in my parents' house, I was in not a good spot, and so it was kind of triggering going back in a way, going back to like childhood room. But it was so good for me. Like that first month was pretty hard. I had so many triggers coming up. So much of what came up in Peru was resurfacing through that transition to my parents' house, and I was like, this is the real work right here. This is the integration. I am being presented with all these challenges and tests to see how I operate and respond and like move through them. And so I just couldn't deny how much I know I was supposed to be there for the time that I was. And it also was really sweet and really tender. Like I loved getting to be back in my parents' house. I didn't know if I would ever be back in their house again, and it was really just like so special getting that time with them. I have 5 siblings. I'm the second youngest. I have never been the only child at home. Like living there growing up, there was always other kids. Like before I moved out, my younger brother still lived there. I think maybe my older sister too. And so I was the only kid at home. And I felt so held by my mother through my chaos. Like it was a really busy, just like hectic few months while living there, and it was so incredible to have her. I felt like she was like taking care of me in a way, like always like fed me dinner, and just, I don't know, I feel like she really picked up my slack. Like I didn't probably do the dishes as often as I should have, but I also didn't really have time. I was gone from like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. a lot of days. So yeah, everything just works out so perfectly. And I realized too, when I decided to do this, I had about a year left on my car payment, on my car loan. But I realized, I was like, if I go live at my parents' house for 3 months, and those 3 months I put all the money that I had going toward rent toward my car, I'm like, I could pay my car off in those 3 months, and then that makes this more doable because I no longer have a car payment, but I don't necessarily have to sell the car. Like I can still have that to like come back to someday. So yeah, it just did not feel like things could have been more perfect the way they lined up. And my original plan was to leave March 15th, But then I had a like job come up for the weekend, that weekend, because I also take jobs up in Park City, which is like a ski resort for people that are here out of town on ski vacation. And that's a lot of what made me really busy that last little bit. So I was like, okay, maybe I extend. That job ended on the 16th. So I was like, okay, I'll leave the 17th. You know, what's 2 extra days if I get like this extra chunk of cash? But then it dawned on me as that week rolled around, I was like, and you still have so much to do. Like, you still need to like move into the RV and then move the rest of your stuff that from your parents into storage, and then like clean your living quarters from your parents and yada yada. And so I was like, I'll get on the road when I get on the road. And I was like, hopefully 2 days, hopefully I can make it on like the 19th. But I'm just gonna like, you know, it'll happen when it happens. And I ended up leaving on the 20th, spring equinox. And I'm like, I knew I was gonna leave on the perfect day. This is the perfect day to start a new adventure. So that's my life update for you guys. I've got my 2 cats with me, Fancy and Pickles. They're both resting somewhere. I will say I'm worried about them. They're actually doing good. I think it's a little bit like frazzling. It's an adjustment for all of us, and I think they're a little confused and they've been a little anxious with the driving and stuff, which makes me feel really bad, but I'm just gonna keep trusting the process. Trust. This is like the biggest surrender of my life. Like, this is like pulling on and relying on every ounce of trust I have in me, but I have yet to be let down by the universe. I look through the history of my life and I'm like, I have an arsenal of like personal testament to the fact that I am always taken care of. I really believe as long as I am being authentic to myself, following my intuition, and living in alignment with who I am in this moment, that I will be taken care of, whatever that looks like. And I think in life, as long as you learn lessons from the things that you go through, you win. So I think even if I'm not on the road, as long as I plan, it all blows up in my face, I run out of money, whatever it is, like if I learn from it, I am a winner. And so I don't think I can fail as long as I learn. And I think there's going to be a lot of experience and learning to come out of this. And so here we go, on to this next chapter. Year of the Horse, Saturn return, turning 29. 2026 feels like it's going to be really big. Anyway, I brought all my herbs. I've got my herb business with me, so I'm going to really lean into that. So if you want to check me out on Etsy, my Etsy shop is called The Primal Herb. We may eventually get an actual website up. I got back on TikTok. I was off it for years, but I'm going to do a lot of like documenting of this journey on TikTok. So if you want to follow me along there, also here on YouTube, I'm going to be vlogging. I think Instagram will be more just like, I don't know, similar to what I already do, pictures. I'll definitely be sharing there as well. But here I'm going to be doing more like actual long format vlogs, shorter format vlogs on TikTok, probably a lot of like showing me making different tinctures and herbs and stuff on TikTok. Currently my TikTok username is Court E Hill. E is in Elizabeth, but I might be changing that, so we shall see. Anyway, if you're here, thank you so much. It would be awesome if social media could help me pull this off, but again, I'm just releasing expectation, trusting that things will happen and come through as they're supposed to. But regardless, thank you for being here. I'm so glad you're here. And I appreciate any support you have to give. And I'm going to leave us there for now. Bye.